Hi, it's Maria. Today I'd like to show you how I made this lovely Z-fold card using the Art Gallery stamp set, its coordinating dies, and this lovely Fine Arts Designer Series paper. I just fell in love with this paper when I saw it. Anyway, I made this card after I made this card. Now, I made this card before the designer paper arrived, so I used the various stamps and I made my own background paper and then stamped the flowers based on the colors I used in the paper. And then once the designer paper arrived, I made this card using this pattern in the pack of designer paper. And I actually die cut these flowers right out of the designer paper and then put the gold leafing on the edges. Now I want to make the same card, but I want to use a different pattern and therefore triple stamping with different colors. Now here's the card, and it's a different pattern of the designer paper. The layout is the same, but the flowers are stamped differently because I picked the colors from the designer paper. Okay, let's get started. Got little odd pieces. I think what I'll do before I go into the dimensions of everything, let's do the stamping. I'm going to need my stamping pad because it is a photopolymer stamp set. And I'll keep, let's see if you can see this, the card here. And this flower is Poppy Parade, Merry Merlot, and the centers of the flowers are Night of Navy. Now I have my inks here. So Poppy Parade, we'll just move the stamp set. Poppy Parade, Merry Merlot, and then we'll use Night of Navy for the center. Now I always start with the largest of the flowers. This is a solid, what you refer to as a solid stamp. And you pick the lightest color first. Perfect. I'll close that up so I don't get my fingers or my elbow or my clothes, or sometimes I drop my work into it. Merry Merlot. Now I don't know if you've done a lot of stamping with this stamp set, but you'll notice there's these holes here. They line up with this part and this part of the stamp. So if you line those up, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe if I hold that up a little bit closer, you see how that lines up here? If you stamp down, then you actually have a perfect alignment. Well, as perfect as you can be. But if you don't get it perfect, that's fine too. There. This is supposed to be artistic, so which means nothing really matches up, sort of. Okay, Night of Navy for the center. You can choose not to do the center. And the bottom part is right in here. There. So that's one flower. Now, this one is Bumblebee and Pumpkin Pie. Bumblebee. I guess I've been a nurse too many years. I always double check the names on the ink pads, just like I did with medications when I was giving them. Okay, I'll just take a moment and clean my stamp so that I don't get the wrong color on the flowers. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Bumblebee first. And if you're actually doing this in person, when you press down, you can actually see the wave of color going underneath the stamp. Okay. The next one is Pumpkin Pie. Here it is. And again, we'll match up those little holes here. Okay. And Night of Navy. Now, I did stamp a third flower with Bumblebee and Daffodil Delight, because that is the third color in the designer paper. I'll show that one to you later. Now, I want to stamp some leaves, and here I picked up one of the colors in here, and that's Pool Party. You don't usually see that for leaves, but I just find that very attractive. Well, I end up cutting the leaves from the stems, so it doesn't really matter if we don't get the stems. All the way. Okay. So that's that stamping for now, and I'm just going to go and die cut, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have them die cut. So I did 2 leaves, but I already cut one apart. And I'll show you how I did that. Take your paper snips. Now, you'll see in here that I've got these as well. And I used this punch and punched that in gold foil. Okay, so that is the stamping, except the sentiment. And I've got a couple of them that, congratulations, or I'm thinking of you. We'll put, oh, I think I'm thinking of you. We'll put that on. Okay, let's put this aside and get the other elements of the card. Oh, here's the other one that I told you about, and I already put the gold gilding on that. We'll do that with the flowers in a second. Okay, just going to get a drink of coffee. The air is very dry in the house these days. Okay, we have a card base of, thick Whisper White, which is 4 1/4 by 11. It's scored at 5 1/2, and then If you divide this in half, this would be scored at 2 3/4. It doesn't matter which side you score it on. Then you would fold it in half and burnish, and then fold this back and burnish. Now on the inside, we have a piece of Pool Party, which is 4 by 5 1/4, and that is layered with the designer paper. Remember, the measurements go down by quarters, so this would be, because this is 4, it would be 3 3/4, and this would be 5. And I've already adhered them together, and I'll just add that to the inside now. I think I can take my stamping pad away. I'm going to use my silicone mat, and I'm using my Stamp & Seal. Now there's going to be a sentiment on the inside. I'm going to leave that for now, although I will mat. There is, the sentiment mat is 3.5 by 2, and it is matted with Pool Party, which is 3 3/4 by 2 1/4. And I can add those together now. I won't attach it to the inside, and you'll see shortly why not. Now there is the same piece for the outside, which will be the art piece, same measurements, and so this is it, and this is what the flowers would be put on. I'll just put those aside for now, and we'll concentrate on these 2 areas. Okay, so we have a piece of Pool Party that is 2.5 by 4, and then a piece of designer paper, which is 2 1/4 by 3.5, and there's 2 of them. So one I've already put together, and so I'll just adhere the other, and we'll put it on the card. Now this particular designer paper, it doesn't really matter which direction the flowers go in. Some of the other patterns, you do have to be careful. You don't want your flowers growing sideways or upside down. This one, the flowers are going all over the place. Now, I love the colors and the flowers in here, and I think anyone who knows me know that I like flowers. Okay, so there's our Z fold. And now, before we put the art piece back on, let's look at adding the flowers. But one thing, I want to give the flowers a treatment. I want to put some gilded leafing on it. And there's several ways of putting it on. One is using the stamp with Versamark. This time I'm going to use Tombow glue. And I use that for here. And to use that, you just add a little bit of Tombow glue where you want it. Like I said, this leafing will stick to anything that is tacky. Now we'll just set that aside until it gets a little bit tacky. Tacky means sticky. There, and while that is getting tacky, I will show you how to add this to the card front and this to the inside. Now, when you're adding it to the card front, you look at the distance between here and the edge, and here and the edge here, and it should be about the same. And you only want to add adhesive to one side and not both. So basically what I'll do is I'll make a little mark, and I know that I will be applying glue or adhesive to this. And I'm going to use Tombow for this. And again, just be careful here. You can move it up a little bit so that you can get your sentiment down there. Okay, now for the inside, now you'll see a little bit of writing there, but that'll be covered up by the flowers. Basically what I do is I hold on to it like this, turn it upside down, add the adhesive, and then close the card. And you have a perfect alignment. I don't know how many times I struggled trying to move it this way, move it that way, and I found that was the best way to do it. Now let's see if our flowers are tacky enough to put. I think so. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to get my gilding. And I'm going to get, move that aside, a piece of paper to protect my work. And I will do very little talking with this because I don't want the flakes to go all over the place. Okay, I'm going to put the lid back on. And with my brush, I'll just brush off the excess. Sometimes you want just a little bit. You don't want a whole bunch. Anything that is loose, you want to brush off. Whoops. And I use a dryer cloth. You can also use a Swiffer if you have a Swiffer. I just have a used dryer cloth, and that works just as well. Just move this out of the way. Okay, now just wipe my hands. You can just take a damp cloth, and that'll get the flakes off your hands. Okay, now you want to arrange the flowers on your card. Now I have a third one. I suppose I can put it on. We can put it on right there. And the leaves, maybe one there. I always arrange things before I start gluing down. Now, there should be another leaf here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Flipped upside down and then I couldn't see it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to use dimensionals, and I already have the dimensionals on the back of the flowers. And you can overlap them a bit if you like. Now, one nice thing about this paper, there's a couple of patterns, and I would show it to you if I could, but I've made so many cards with it, I don't have any of that page left. But you can take the die from the die set. This one, and you can actually die cut the flowers right from the designer paper. I actually did that with these. But not all of the paper. You can do that with all of the paper. Bring this down a bit. Turn it a bit at an angle. And this one, right there. Okay, now I add the leaves. I think a couple of leaves here. That would take care of this little spot there. And okay, so it's a matter of placing them where, make sure that I don't get it on the card, the bottom there. Now you can arrange this art piece before you adhere it to the card, but as you can see, you really can't match up the inside and the outside when you have all the flowers on them. Okay, one more, maybe this end. Okay, now these just gives it a little bit of extra glam, you might say. Yeah. Now we find the sentiment that kind of got lost in here. Here it is. Congratulations, I think, kind of stands out a little bit more. And okay, I think I'll just put a little tumble on the back here. Sometimes what I will do when I die cut these for sentiments, I will die cut 3 of them at the same time and adhere them together, and that gives a little bit, makes them nice and firm. I didn't do that this time. Maybe I'll put this down a little bit, but I think next time I will again. Okay, now we can add, I have a ribbon. Here we are. Pool party ribbon. I love this sheer ribbon. And we can put that right there in this little spot. And I have some glue dots. And this is from the Paper Pumpkin kit. They have these lovely little glue dots. And they give you a generous amount. You just have to just remove the cover. And that exposes the glue dot. And I'll take my scissors. I have scissors. Sorry, my mouth is dry. Let me have a little coffee here. Yeah, I have a pair of scissors just for ribbon, because once you use scissors on paper, it makes them dull. Okay. Now, I have some embellishment somewhere, but I really think I don't need any on this card. What do you think? Anyway, here's the Z-fold card. If you want, you can stamp a little flower here as well. You've got a nice writing surface here. Now, if you want, you can decorate the envelope as well. I have done one envelope here, and what I've done is taken the reverse side of the designer paper and just adhered it to the flap. You can conversely stamp some flowers on the flap like I've done here. So one or the other, you've got a way of decorating the envelope. So that is the Z-fold using the Art Gallery stamp set. Die cutting the flowers, triple stamping, die cutting the flowers, and applying the Gilded Leafing. And these are my other samples. I think those 3 are good. Okay, so I'll just move that down a little bit. You can see it. And again, this is Maria. Thank you for watching.